the mood for today's conversation as part of the Marriage Matters series. Today's day 4, intimacy and emotional connection. And to help us do justice to this very topic is Reverend Mrs. Catherine Mama Kati, they call her. She is a family life consultant, Famille Renaissance International. I've been practicing that. I hope I got it right. So let's put the tonight's best you've ever had behind the scenes, and then let's do the justice to the topic. Good morning, Reverend.
A very blessed morning to you too. You did a good job with my name.
Oh wow, interesting. I mean, I did my best.
I think you truly did well.
Thank you very much.
Practicing. I should look for an award.
So since Monday, we've been talking marriage. And when I got this one, I was like, okay, I'm really looking forward to this very conversation. Intimacy and emotional connection. First of all, let's start with the institution of marriage in itself. And let's state, why is marriage such a big deal for us to spend the whole of this week talking about it?
Okay, thank you very, very much. And I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for the privilege of having me as a part of the conversations this week. I don't think I would have done justice by saying this 1 week dedicated to marriage has done it all. I wish we could dedicate our entire life, because the very foundation of the society lies on marriage. The more we want to run away from it, the more the reality is that nothing works in a system, nothing works in a society without marriage working.
Wow, that means that 1 week can never do justice. 2 weeks can't do justice for an important
topic. A year
topic.
Cannot do justice, because the system revolves around marriage. The more people want to push it aside, the more things are degenerating. So it's better that we come back home and give attention to what matters the most, because family is the bedrock of the society.
Yeah.
And family is being fed by marriage. As much as people think it's not important, you can raise children, but there are structures that hold every system, firm. And marriage is that structure that holds the family. Broken at the family unit is because marriage would not have been working. And at the end of the day, those who saw at not apex now, at the root of the structure or the ladder, are the people you're going to see at the end of the day, and what was given to them, what was imputed into them. So marriage is too important to be ignored. It's too relevant. It's too relevant in the midst of all what we're thinking of. Marriage is too relevant to be ignored.
A broken society is therefore what? A sign of a broken marriage system?
Absolutely. Absolutely. A broken society, because society is made up of human beings. And human beings are byproduct of what two adults came together to do. And so if you don't look at marriage as the very foundation that will sustain and hold the fabric of the society together, then we are making a very grievous mistake.
Wow. That's just a hot way to start. Mama Kati is going to share practical tips and personal experiences on how to cultivate a deeper emotional bond, foster physical intimacy, and maintain a strong connection in a long-term relationship or marriage. So Mama Kati, let's start from here. What are the key elements of emotional intimacy in marriage?
Okay, key element. Very brilliant question. Key element. I will just mention a few so that will not be over whatever. Okay, so we're looking at trust. If you are not trusted, nobody will really share the best of themselves. Trust is needed. Empathy. Communication.
Wow.
Commitment to the cause of marriage. Okay? Acceptance. If I don't feel accepted, if somebody doesn't feel accepted, how will the person really be committed to you emotionally and then share intimate conversations with you? So I have mentioned, I think 3 or 4, 5 or thereabout.
You've done 5.
I've done 5.
Yes.
Okay, so we've looked at
trust, empathy, communication,
commitment, acceptance. Yeah, these are very key elements and components of emotional intimacy.
So you mean to say that if any of these 5 is lacking, it would have an effect on the level of intimacy between the two?
Absolutely.
Let's pick empathy.
Okay.
How is empathy playing a role in the intimacy between myself and my wife?
And what is empathy? It's ability to put yourself in another person's shoes. When you become judgmental, critical, and condemning, it's because you feel you're better than your wife. and you have not been able to sit down and listen to her, communicate her mind, her feelings, her experiences, because we are an embodiment of all what we've gone through from childhood, right, to adulthood. And so most of the things people do in marriage is not because they would have done it, but it's maybe because of what had happened to them, early childhood experiences, teenage encounters, significant emotional experiences. All of these add up to who we ultimately become. And so when a person acts up in marriage, most times, I'm not giving them a green light, no. I'm just saying that empathy brings you to a place where before you think of judging, listen to the person and get to understand who the person is. And make yourself such that a person can confide in. Because if you come across, there are languages you speak, there's a body language you express or you put out there that makes your spouse feel that you are not ready for the truth about me. And you are judging me, condemning me, not knowing my story. So empathy simply in emotional intimacy is, as much as lies within you, don't assume the role of a Holy Spirit if you are a Christian and interpret it the other way around if you are not. Don't ever assume that you know the person so well. Be patient. Be patient and love. Bend backward to love a person to the point that the person can trust you and be open to you. Show empathy. That's basically what it means. It requires maturity. It requires maturity because the human nature is such that we are very easy to castigate, point fingers, blame, find reasons not to allow a person be his or herself or find his or herself. So how best do you show empathy to your wife?
If she says she has a headache, so she's not in a mood, I should understand. I should find out why. I should be patient enough to listen to her and then walk in her shoes, as it were.
That's exactly what it is. Because the headache may not be headache. It could be emotional headache. It could be physical. It could be psychological. It could be something that has broken her. It could be a situation that probably your body language at home does not even give her the opportunity to express herself. So it's coming back to saying, I want a better marriage. And it requires a lot because nothing good comes easy.
Nothing good comes easy.
Nothing good comes easy.
They said to love another is labor. It's hard work. Why so? Why is it not? If love is so important to God, that he himself is love, created us in love, loved us to die for us, why should love be so difficult? Why shouldn't it be a walk in the park?
And you just answered the question you asked me. Love us so much that he died. Why should he die if he loves? Why must you die for love if it were a walk in the park? If it were a walk in the park. So the example of love is characterized by the person of Christ for those who are Christians listening to us. But there is nothing love. There is nothing called love if you cannot love the unlovable. Because love is not the name of a person, it's an action. An action most times are challenged by the other person that you are trying to show love to. But sustaining the capacity to say, you may have gone wrong, but there is a cost that drives me in my wanting to love you. And the cost is bigger than what you put up. And I know that if I can pay my price, I'll get you at the last. So I'm in here for the long walk.
Oh, wow. How can couples cultivate a deeper emotional connection then? What do we have to do? Deeper. Not superficial, but deeper emotional connection.
It can only happen when people understand what marriage is. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. The late Dr. Miles Monroe said.
Miles Monroe said that.
That's it. If you don't know the purpose for marriage, you can't cultivate a deeper emotional connection. It's impossible.
What is the purpose for marriage, Mama
The purpose for marriage is bigger than we'll ever know, and I'll share a few of them. The reason we are as created beings is because somebody fell. And I want to take my time to explain this. Because marriage in itself is a mystery, it's a hidden secret. And you know that the whole essence of managing somebody's product in your ability to understand the manual, otherwise you'll mess it up. So this idea of marriage was not thought out by our parents or by the leaders of the society in whatever facet you may think of. There's somebody that thought it out. And most times people ignore the person that brought about the idea of marriage and want to run marriage on their own, and that's why it collapses on them. So what is the purpose for marriage? There are a few of them, but I will only concentrate on one. There's somebody that was here before time, and his name is called Satan for those who are Christians, and it applies to every other person. You know that there is an opponent that fights every system in this world. Okay, so the guy used to be a very important person in up above there. We have Angel Michael in charge of defense. We have Angel Gabriel in charge of information. And we had Angel Lucifer in charge of worship. And that guy messed up. And when that guy messed up and he was thrown down, in order to replace, because what makes the creator of the universe makes him thick, his ability to worship him. So marriage was a substitute to a fallen angel. So we are created as worshippers. Oh, you hear people say marriage is for procreation, marriage is for support, it's for companionship. Those are fringe benefits of marriage, but not the real reason for marriage. When you marry right, you have a good companion. When you marry right, support becomes the benefit you receive from marriage. But we are here not just as humans that don't have beginning or an end. So marriage, the purpose for marriage was to create people who are exactly like God and can love like God and can give the world a sense of direction and dominate over what God created, because you can't dominate over chaos. And so from every pocket of homes we have in the society that is instituted by God as marriage, we're going to have order, we're going to have vision, we're going to have values, we're going to have a system that runs and is able to produce children after the replica of the parent to give sanity to the world. So marriage is a much deeper thing than just emotional intimacy or sexual intimacy. It is the actual formation that gives the world an opportunity to win.
Oh, wow. So I mean, outside of marriage, you mean that aside that, every other thing, even what we thought was the real purpose of marriage, which is to be able to relate to each other, is also fringe.
Fringe.
Then sex is very fringe.
It's fringe. Sex cannot even be enjoyed, because most people enter into marriage wanting to have a sexual partner. But you cannot have a sexual partner if you are not connected to the person. And so sex becomes a fulfillment when you understand what marriage is and you connect at that level. Otherwise, it's just a mechanical action that I'm just doing as a chore.
As a chore?
Absolutely.
Like sweeping, cleaning, scrubbing?
Absolutely. It's just something that keeps me in there for. So one partner probably may enjoy, the other partner just says, in order to stay in this place, let me just donate my body.
Oh, wow. Mama Kati, you are saying some things.
I don't know. But the truth must be let out of the net.
Among your 5 pillars we have here, communication. What role does communication play in building intimacy?
Communication is to intimacy and marriage what blood is to the body.
Oh, so this rings true with what we've learned since Monday, that communication is a lubricant of the marriage.
Absolutely. If blood ceases to flow in your body, you're a dead person, God forbid. Communication is actually what gives life to marriage. You cannot say you are intimate with any person that you are not on a talking terms. I'm not saying giving information. It's sharing feelings.
There is giving information.
Absolutely. So many couples are living in the house just sharing information and they are not communicating.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Communication goes deeper. You want to understand why the person is acting the way. You want to understand the feelings. You want to understand the motives. You want to understand the deep thoughts. You want to understand the person beyond what is said, because verbalization of words is only 7% of communication. So I may be communicating with you, thinking you may be thinking I'm communicating, but I'm giving you information because I just want peace. Or probably there's something to talk about, but I'm not sharing my heart, because I can't be vulnerable if I'm not certain that you'll protect my vulnerability. And communication requires vulnerability.
Whoa. 7% verbal. We are told 20-something, tonal, and then the rest is body language.
Body language.
Okay. We're learning. Listeners, it's just 22 minutes past 9. Mama Kati is here. And I thought on the 4th day we would have some respite, but the bombs are just dropping just like that. Tell me, those who give information and don't communicate, I want us to, how do they do it? So that if somebody is experiencing that, you're not communicating, you're just giving information.
Yeah, the difference between information giving and communication in marriage simply is simply put, is as a result of the lack of connection. So if I'm just in here just to fulfill all righteousness, because you've not given me attention, you haven't come to the level I can trust you with the me in me, because the me in me is more than the container. The content is more important. And if you don't connect with the content that makes me me, I'll give you information on everything. But communication is when we drop everything. It might not even be talking. It might just be bonding. It might be eye focus. It might be something. There's something that connects. There's something that makes me literally drop everything because I know you are the same wavelength with me. And so information in marriage is what kills marriage, because it kills the atmosphere at home. And when one's atmosphere is toxic, it affects other people at home. When you sense that there is tension, but yet nobody can place a finger, you just realize there is tension. There is no play. There is no connection. There's no coming together. There's no bonding. There is nothing. But we are there, co-tenant in the same house. Your food is ready. Okay, I've left money for you. Information. The children's midterm begins tomorrow. Information. Okay, I have been able to buy the thing you asked me to buy. It's there.
Information.
It's information. Communication is, how are you? I want to feel what you feel. How was your day? Is there anything you can share with me? Is there anything we can do? Let's go somewhere. Let's talk. Let's chill over a cup of coffee. There's a connection that is not mechanical. It's wanting to know who the other person is, what the other person is going through, so you can provide the needed support that marriage was supposed to provide, because life is not an island. We're supposed to connect. Is that even if the whole world were on fire, there's somebody else that I connect at a level that makes the fire not consuming.
Oh, wow. Communication. So what as during courtship, should you not have been connecting? How do two people fall in love? They get married, they do a whole planning, sometimes 2, 3 years, 4 years ahead. And they are in a marriage and they are just giving information. Was the information thing there during courtship, or something happened in marriage that caused them to move from communication to just giving information? Where is courtship in all of this?
I love this question. Thank you so much for asking. I'll just drop a few things. It can be exhaustive. You see, when people say they are already in love, it's very difficult to reach them. The in-love syndrome is one of the worst syndromes that life can give to anybody. Because in-love syndrome of courtship makes you see red light as green light. And makes you think that what every other person is pointing you to, you know how to manage. So you don't listen to caution. You see red flags and you call them green because you are in love. Oh, I understand. So they can even do counseling. But if counseling is not as deep as pulling out certain things that are lying down like landmines, it will not even help the people. So courtship for most people is used as honeymoon. And then they use marriage for courtship. That is where the problem comes from.
Mama Kati, you have to repeat that one. Let me sit well. Courtship is actually honeymoon. Then when they marry,
they
then
get
that
into
becomes
courtship. And then you hear, this is not the person I married.
Z101.9 FM, Z in the morning. Marriage Matters series. Courtship rather becomes honeymoon. And then the real marriage becomes courtship. They are now learning about each other. And they find something they don't like. They say, this is not the man I married. Because you have inverted the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is what is bringing the society down, not just Africa, the whole world. Because we misconstrue the whole concept of marriage and make it frivolities. And at the end of the day, we enter into it so unprepared. And there's so much unmet expectations. And the thing collapses before it even begins.
Wow. I'll come to intimacy. I want to know, this thing just brings something to mind. How were our grandfathers able to stay that long without we hearing of all these challenges that we, the modern ones, are? What were they doing right that we are not getting right?
They may not have done anything right, but their system and the society in their time was different from us. There's a lot of infiltration of information now. There's a lot of intercultural, how do I put it now? Cultures have been meshed. We are exposed to a lot more. Expectations were not really much. Okay, the man marries as many wives as possible. The wife knows that she didn't go to school to be looking for work. She goes to the farm, comes back and takes care of the children. But you are living in a society where both male and female have come to the place where, at least to an extent, that is where God wanted the two of them to be. But they've got to manage the seasons. So our ancestors, our grandfathers, our fathers, our great-grandfathers, mothers, had it working because their system was a little bit more, not as demanding as the world today. There is so much that brings tension to marriage today as against then. And, the acquisition of knowledge kind of brings a lot more understanding to a person who is liberated knowledge-wise.
Okay.
So women then, probably, the majority of them didn't go to school and they couldn't really take care of themselves. So they were totally dependent on their husbands. But you cannot have it the same way now, being that most women are educated and they can take care of themselves. And so they ask, what do you bring to the table? Both sides of the table. Both sides of the people ask, what do you bring to the table? So that is why there's a lot of problems today, because literally speaking, both genders are more enlightened, more exposed, and then the beliefs now are not as they were.
Okay.
Because another very important thing that I don't want to miss out on is the fact that the belief system generates the action we put out there. What people believe controls their behavior and action.
Exactly.
And their behaviors and action gives us the result and outcome. So our ancestors were able to live happily ever after because not much was expected from mostly the women's side. You were privileged to be married, so you stay calm. But I think to a great extent, you can't send your child to Harvard, your daughter to Harvard. And then you give her in marriage to a man that went to probably Poly because they fell in love. Except they truly know the truth about marriage and the two of them are willing to bend backward.
Okay.
You can't expect them to be like your grandfather and grandmother were.
Okay. Because she has a different worldview now. She's been to Harvard.
Exactly. You've touched on where I was going. The worldview is different. Achievement levels, everything is different. So this is also something that challenges marriage, and it's something that premarital counseling was supposed to look into. So times have changed. Literally everything has changed. But the mindset of some people haven't changed, and it's causing a lot of problems.
The traditional man and the modern woman. Interested. That's the title of a book by Bishop Moses Kofi Amponsa. Traditional man, modern woman. How can couples overcome intimacy challenges and reconnect? If it is broken, how do we overcome the intimacy challenges? Lying in the same bed, but like Counselor George Asa said, one faces to the north, one faces to the south. And although the space between them on the bed is small, it's so wide. How do we reconnect?
The simplest way to reconnect is to first of all realize there is a problem. Because the reason for the disconnect was because something was not properly addressed.
Okay.
And so reconnection will require that we visit some areas that is causing the problem and not be too personal. How do I put it? I'm looking for the best word so listeners will understand. And not assume or minimize. That's the word. Not minimize the concerns that one party brings to the table that has degenerated, as it were. So you go back to conflict resolution, constructive conflict resolutions. That does not minimize people's concern in the marriage and your willingness to bend backward. But most times, the two people may not be able to do because of emotional stake they have on the issues on ground at hand. So you need a professional that will begin to find out why that disconnect happened in the first place. There are certain psychometric tests that could be run because they themselves may not even know where the problem came from. People may be so disconnected in marriage without even being able to put a finger. It's a culmination of a lot of things. And so they need help. And I've come to realize that this part of the world, people are not really ready for help. And most times we go to the wrong people to give counsel, to bring the reconnection back. So it's summarily, I would say, place a value on your marriage, because there can be no reconnection if there is no value placed on the marriage. When you place a value on the marriage, then you look for help, because nobody complains of complicated health issues and then sits back at home and say it will work. What will work will work. You go look for a professional who can attend to your problems and then scan the thing. So if you sense that there is an issue in your marriage that is bringing the disconnect and you're sleeping, facing the opposite sides, you realize that was not supposed to, it's not supposed to be like that. And you also understand that today you may be flexing because you are in charge and life comes in season. Because there are some people that don't even care about the connection. They don't care. But human beings don't know that morning season, somebody takes care of you. Afternoon season, you seem to be in charge. And sometimes you can flex your ego. But an evening season comes that probably you did not make room for. And one of the reasons for marriage is that when everything, the emptiness comes and life doesn't really become as you thought it was because the season has changed. You can have a companion you had worked together with and built a rapport and understanding that the person was going to be there. So when you understand the dimensions of the gains that marriage brings to you, you will now be positioned to look for help so that whatever is bringing the disconnect can be fixed.
Deep words from Mama Kati. It's like 9:35. Hey, it's quite interesting. Let's time together. How important is it? This one is like if it's a personal question I'm trying to ask. I'm either asleep or I'm on my laptop because I'm an author. I write. So, you don't give me time. Chala, they work. This is work. How important is spending time together? I mean, for some of us, spending time without doing anything looks like wasting time. Mama Kati, how important is time together? They call it quality time. How important is this? What are some of the practical ways we can find time and not find time? I went to say find time. I go into trouble. Make time.
Thank God you corrected yourself. You don't.
Make time to spend time together.
You see, marriage is a union.
Okay.
And no union works when the two parties are not intertwined. Quality time is too important, and it cannot be overemphasized. Quality time is realizing that whatever takes your time is what you value. So you said you're an author. You're always there because you want to make impact in that area of your concern because you place value there. But you know that your marriage is more important than any of this. Because if it works in your marriage, you go on a speed that is unprecedented. One chases 1,000. Two, 10,000. Two can never become two to chase 10,000 if there's no time spent together. And so the best way is married. What you call quality time may not be your wife's quality time. So it goes back to finding out.
Okay.
What means quality time for you, because I'm ready to give you love in your language.
Okay. Love
it could be
in your language.
Yes, it could be date night. It could be just suspending your telephone, your gadget, everything and saying, baby, this is me and you time. It has nothing to do with sex. Quality time is ability to say, okay, we are going to be intentional. We are busy all through the week, but we devote one day, a certain time, sit over a coffee, sit over a drink, sit over anything, just recline. She may put her legs on your laps. You may put just something that shows intentionality, that I place value on this union.
Okay.
Quality time for a couple, one couple may say quality time is you help me out in the kitchen. Spend time with me. Well, you may not be helping, just stand there, encourage me, give me moral support. Another one may be, let's go out, date night once a week. Another one may be weekends away, depending on your budget anyway. Another one may be just reclining on a sofa and watching video together, watching television together. It means different things to different people, but it's a means of connecting. And when you make yourself too busy to the point that you think this one is appendage, addendum, you're going to have a problem, because there is no intimacy without connection, and there is no connection without quality time.
Mama Kati. This is Z101.9 FM, Z in the morning. This is day 4 of the Marriage Matters series, and Mama Kati is here with us. We take a spot of music just to cool down, then we come back and we continue the conversation right here on Z in the morning.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
What you doing? Where you at? Oh, you got plans. Don't say that. Shut your trap. I'm sipping wine. In a robe. I look too good.
Leave the door open. We're still here, Z101.9 FM, and the conversation is getting interesting. Mama Kati is here, dropping us some verbal artillery that is shaking people's very foundation. And if you are feeling very hot in your seat right now, probably because you are listening to words of truth, words of wisdom. Mama Kati, should intimacy be reserved for only married couples? Or what kind of intimacy should those in the relationship have? Since it's so important when they become married, what should they be doing pre-marriage for them to remain intimate in marriage?
Brilliant question there. There are different types of intimacy. Mm-hmm. And if you're thinking marriage, I think you should think around this area so that it will enhance and enrich your marriage. Physical intimacy that has nothing to do with sex, but just enjoying your company, okay? There's also intellectual intimacy.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Because nothing frustrates marriage like getting married because of certain sentiments. And at the end of the day, you enter, you realize that you are different levels when it comes to intellectual abilities. And that poses a lot of problem. And probably one person is developing and growing in the marriage and the other person is left hanging. At the end of the day, it will frustrate the original intimacy that marriage is supposed to enjoy. Okay. There should be spiritual intimacy because we're spiritual beings. But that is not to be over-religious. It's just realizing that there is wisdom embedded in spirituality, and you gain that wisdom together, so it helps you navigate when you finally marry.
Okay. Spiritual intimacy, intellectual intimacy,
Physical.
before the physical intimacy.
Yeah. Physical starts even before marriage, but not sex inclusive, because sex blinds the eye, and marriage is not sustained by sex. As those who have been married, you are married.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be married and not enjoy sex or even have it, because there are so many other things that play. There are factors. And so for those people who are not yet married, most times they concentrate all effort at physical intimacy that is inculcating of sex. And at the end, they marry discovering that there's no sync, because they did not cultivate the other areas of intimacy that was going to enhance.
The intellectual, which would speak to the soulish area, and then the spiritual, which would speak to the spirit. But we're just doing the physical, you know.
Yeah. That is what frustrates marriage at the end of the day, because there is no, I will use the word koinonia, there is no blending, there is no intertwine of all the aspects of intimacy that allows you to enjoy marriage when you fully come into it. People are too physical. They are too, not physical aspect, hold my hand and all of that, but too sexual. Because physical intimacy is different from sexual intimacy. But people blend most times it together.
Okay.
Physical intimacy is that we can connect physically if we are close proximity. We meet, we talk, we hold our hands, we find ourselves as friends. There's a conduit that runs through the two of us. But we establish boundaries. That even though we are physically connected and we want to see how we sync together, sexually there is a boundary, because we don't want to begin to eat our cake before we come into it. And that is where people will throw stones. Hey, that woman, da, 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 da. At the end of the day, if sex were the only thing that sustained marriage, nobody will be divorced. So all these levels of intimacy are very important. You harness them, work on them, it will work. And all of them blended together can only be made to becoming productive if we think futuristic. If we think futuristic. People are sometimes so short-sighted that they think life is just about now. And when you come into relationship, the frivolity of I've gotten her, I've gotten him, and all of that, life comes in season. And intimacy can only be sustained when you realize how to manage the different seasons that marriage will bring you face to face with. Because life happens.
Life happens.
Yeah, it does.
It's just 9:45. We have about 10 minutes to go. The lines are open. 0544-321019. 0544-321019. You can also send us a WhatsApp via the very line. We'll read it out here. 0303-956641 as well. 0303-956641. You can also go to social media. I mean, if you are, our website is zmultimedia.com. On TikTok and YouTube, our handle is @zmultimedia. And then on Facebook, Instagram, and on the X, it's at ZFMGH. You can just go to any of these platforms, send us, I'm looking at WhatsApp right now. You can send us a WhatsApp message and we'll read it to Mama Kati so that she answers your questions like we've been doing since Monday. The issue of sex and relationship and the fact that it blinds. I'm sure it's a punch to some people, but we're listening to wisdom. What are some common misconceptions about intimacy and emotional connection?
Thinking that you don't need to spend any time. It just happens naturally.
Oh, it must be worked on.
At the beginning of this interview, I said that nothing good comes easy. Ever thinking that it just happens is such an error. It doesn't happen. You cultivate. You're willing to pay the price, willing to learn. Because as you were giving the announcement just now, what came to me, I needed to share. I said, I would have walked away from here without sharing this. Is the fact that some of us come from backgrounds where we didn't see our parents being intimate, showing affection to each other. And that, when before marriage, you think that you are romantic. It's only after marriage you discover that you are two foreign bodies, because probably you didn't see mom and dad show such affection, and the physical intimacy was not played out for you to see. So it's very difficult to become what you didn't see.
What level of intimacy should I show before my two kids? Whilst with mom, when the two of them are all there watching us?
Oh my goodness, that's another topic for another day, because you can never transfer to the next generation what you don't play out. They see pattern through modeling. So you hold your wife's hand. Sweetheart, come and sit down here. They are watching, they are seeing. Because no school teaches children marriage. It's only the home that teaches. And the only thing that should be kept from your two little children is intercourse in the bedroom. But every other emotional connection must be lived out, that they see the atmosphere released from tension, that you play around, that you joke around, that you do things together. They are watching you and they'll replicate it.
Hey, Mama Kati.
Yes, we send children to school at the end of the day to learn curriculum that may not even be useful to them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What's the curriculum you are playing out at home that will help them in that which matters the most? Relationship. When you insult, it's not intimacy. When you stay up, children know more than what you think. They see, they pick the atmosphere. Toxicity kills them. And so most times we are the byproduct relationally of where we came from. And so talking emotional intimacy is simply saying change the narratives. Play out a script that gives life to the young children, that love can be trusted.
Okay. Aside intercourse, anything goes. I mean, physical. So hold mommy, hold daddy, let children see. Don't hold only in the bedroom.
Sit down together, recline together. They'll come and say, yeah, but they're watching. They see love flows. Because we are talking, all these are mechanical engagement. We are it's mechanical. When we come to talk about it and we don't practicalize it, at the end of the day, it's just information churned out there. Nobody sees it. The next generation can only be positively impacted when we take this information and translate them and they become life in our union.
Oh.
They will not look for love in the wrong places and believe a lie, because they know what truth looks like.
They've seen it at home with mom and dad.
And it is also shared with them, because you should cuddle them. Mom and dad should be able to come and cuddle them. I love you. You're doing well, and all of those things. That is how you cultivate intimacy and trust in love. Love that does not ask for anything in return or abuses. Because what we call love most times is abuse. And it comes from the place where we did not see the love in its true sense. And so anybody that comes to feign this thing we call love is trusted. And at the end, it turns out to something else. So live out intimacy, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. All of it should be lived out before your children, and let them learn the lessons and carry it on from there.
Ben Freeman from Tema. Good morning. We thank God for this day too. I'm so glad about the program. God bless you all for your good work, 100%. But my problem is, how many young people are listening now? They don't like radio. Wow. Okay, we'll use other means to reach them. I'm sure social media is there. That's why I announced the handles and all that. We'll find a way of getting the young one. Thank you so much for listening, Ben Freeman from Tema. Long distance relationships, intimacy, being in each other's space. Now there are thousands of miles between you. How can couples maintain intimacy and emotional connection in a long distance relationship?
Communication. Talking more. Video calls. And all of those things. Sharing the day. Going out of your way to communicate how the day goes and what's going on with your life. You can manage long-distance relationship such that by the time you connect physically, it's so rich and robust.
Okay.
But ability for you to not allow life sap energy from you such that you give the leftover to your long-distance partner.
You think people are giving leftovers?
Oh, yes. It's not something that probably they thought they were going to be doing, but it's just life. If you are not intentional at giving the best of you, you'll be giving the leftover. I'm tired. The day was this. It's like you don't make room and you don't create space. And so it's required that we become deliberate and intentional at connecting even though we are far. And when you're connecting, let it not be need-driven. Let it not be need driven. Because people disconnect from people who you look at me as Father Christmas or Mother Christmas. You only come to me because of what you need me to do for you. But you don't find out what's going on with me. So be cautious of reducing the distance to just connecting to meet needs. Go out of your way. Find out about what's going on with your partner. And assure them you're there with them. And words have a way of lingering in the subconscious. Words of affirmation, words of affection, words of motivation, encouragement, and all of that. If you are in a long distance relationship, even though you're far, let your words be so close.
Hey, another one. If you are in a long distance relationship, even though you are far, let your words be so close. Yes, it's still the Marriage Matters series, day 4. Vulnerability, you mentioned it. It's such a scary word because it can be used against me. So what role does vulnerability play in establishing and building emotional intimacy?
You see, the reason we have certain things kind of backfire is because most people don't really understand the system that has ability to hold marriage in such a way that you become vulnerable. I'll use a very typical example. You love football. Not every football team will win their match. Not because they don't have good players, but the team formation matters.
Okay.
So vulnerability requires that you have an understanding of the facet that makes up the 4-4-2 formation or 1-3-3, whatever formation you choose. Purpose for marriage. Do you know the purpose for your marriage? Because when you understand the purpose for your marriage, little things drop like pack of carton. What is the vision for your marriage? Most people, you come in here, what ZTV does is because there's a vision statement that determines who they hire.
Exactly.
The kind of business they do. How many married people understand why they're married and the vision for the marriage? So how will I be very vulnerable to a person that our vision don't match? In every corporate institution and every company or all of that, you discover that people have value statements, and those value statements is what forms their personality, forms their choices and lifestyle and all of that. What are the values for your marriage? When a couple don't come to a place where they sit down and analyze all of these different critical players of marriage, what happens is that vulnerability becomes a real challenge, because whatever you say will be used against you in the court of law. And so I'd rather keep quiet. I can't be vulnerable. And I would use this medium to advise people. Look for somebody who can help you. Every team has a coach. And when the team is not doing well, they don't blame the players too much. They blame the coach.
Yeah.
Who is the coach? Who is coaching your marriage? Or everybody seems, we have monopoly of knowledge. We know it all. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So vulnerability for me is walking the stages of our marriage to the place that we truly have become one. And you know whether you've become one with another. And it's that knowledge that helps informs how vulnerable you can be. Because if you do not get that understanding that there's a connectivity, there's the in me, into me see that I can allow you come in and I'll never regret that I did. I may not have started out with the knowledge that it will get to that level, but we can walk the process and get to that place. Because when marriage gets to the place of vulnerability, I'm telling you the truth, is heaven on earth.
Your final words, but you sneak the word in, so I want that to be your final submission. Intimacy.
Intimacy simply means into me see. If you truly see into me, will you stand it?
Reverend Mrs. Catherine, she's just dropped the last one. Into me see, intimacy. If you see what is really in there, would you be able to stand it? Marriage Matters series, day 4. intimacy and emotional connection. That has been the discussion so far. It's 3 minutes to the top of the hour. The news is coming up at 10. And then NYA, the brand, takes over the rest of the show. This is Z in the morning. What else can I say? I'm just so blown away. I'll end as always and say we'll do this again tomorrow, people. TGIF, Jerry Hum will be back. However, whatever you do, pray like it only depends on